5 minutes of Frat House coming to you right now on the last week of July. Can you believe this one? It's a stormy night here right now going on here at the Frat House.
Yep.
Frat House, Mike, and Sidekick. Hard to believe. We only got about, are you ready for this one? 7 more regular season races remaining in NASCAR. 7, that's it.
We're getting down there.
And then we start into the chase. But we've got a lot of things kicking up right now this week. Hey, we had NFL training camps kick in last week.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. We've got the Olympics kicking in with their opening ceremony on Friday.
Yep.
And all kinds of stuff going on, but not so much went on last week in NASCAR. Because as we mentioned last week, well, there wasn't a race last week. But that doesn't mean there wasn't activity going on. But we're back to action this week. Going on at the home of the Indianapolis 500.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the Brickyard 400.
Yes.
That 2.5 mile Indianapolis course out there. But before we get to your fantasy chat for this week on NASCAR, we need to just kind of touch a little bit on that number 2 driver, A.J. Allmendinger. Now, you'll recall just a couple of weeks ago that, well, the Dinger was abruptly pulled from his car about an hour and 45 minutes just prior to the beginning of the race at Daytona. NASCAR had claimed that, in fact, he had failed a drug test that had just occurred about a week before. Well, on Tuesday, NASCAR announced that Allmendinger had been suspended indefinitely. And reports are that traces of a stimulant or some sort of amphetamine.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines.
Amphetamine.
That had been found in the second test. Allmendinger, who has contended from the very, very beginning that he has no idea how any of this possibly could have happened. And it must have been some sort of OTC or over-the-counter type of supplement that perhaps maybe he was taking, is now forced to be involved in NASCAR's substance abuse recovery program.
Yes.
Before he can get reinstated.
Yes.
Any thoughts on this one?
Well, briefly, I just want to say I'm impressed with the maturity.
I agree with you.
Versus what we saw go down with Jeremy Mayfield.
Yeah.
A few years back. So I'm glad that he's voluntarily going into the program. We kind of alluded to it on our Facebook page,
and that
he's still maintaining his innocence,
yeah,
and saying, "Hey, I'm going to go through this program. As outlined by NASCAR, we believe in the policy, but I still maintain my innocence, and I'm still, having my supplements and things tested. Now, being a little bit working out and dealing with supplements and stuff, when we talk about Mark McGuire's and the other steroid people,
I don't know if this is the same situation. Right.
People were more quickly to judge.
Exactly.
I'm not as quick to judge AJ, given now my knowledge of supplements and the fact that they're not regulated by the FDA. So there's been a lot of cases where the FDA has come down on supplement makers because they've contained steroids and things like that. You hear all the time about college sports. Watch what supplements you're taking because you can come up high.
Yeah.
Unknowingly. So I'm giving AJ a little leeway. He wasn't that far. He was nanograms over what the legal limit was. He's still over the limit, don't get me wrong. But I believe he's doing the correct thing here, and I'm hoping that he is able to clear his name.
Yeah, it certainly has appeared at this point right now that he has been a real gentleman through the whole situation. And with racing returning this week, well, hey, you're probably looking at your fantasy lineup, you're probably looking at your team, and hey, you want to have the best thing going, so that's when we got to turn it over.
We got
the bricks right there. We got to turn it over to our resident fantasy expert for your picks for the week.
Yep. Alrighty. So this week we're going racing in the Hoosier State.
Yep.
That's right, boys and girls. We're going back to Indy. This is one of the races every driver aspires to win at. Winning a race here is almost the same as winning a Sprint Cup championship. As a matter of fact, nearly half the winners of this race have gone on that year to win the Sprint Cup Championship. So it's kind of a barometer. Names like Jimmy Johnson, we've got Jeff Gordon, Dale Jarrett, Bobby Labonte, Tony Stewart, to name, the drivers that have done it. So that being said, let's take a look at who we're going to want to keep an eye on this weekend. We're going to want to look at Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon has 10 top 5s at the Brickyard. That's well above the most of any of the current active drivers. We got Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart has 6 top 5s with 2 victories and 6 results of 6th or better in the last 8 races. Greg Biffle has shown some success at Indy and is on a good momentum this year, so he's possibly a good pick as well. Mark Martin, I mean, what can you say about this guy? He's finished 11th or better in the last 7 races here, so he's probably a good value pick. Also, you've got Denny Hamlin. This guy's been a stud on flat track race tracks this season, so he's another one you're going to want to keep an eye on.
Real quick on Gordon.
Yes.
He strikes me as one a little bit like what we've talked about recently with Carl Edwards. He's kind of on the bubble there. I mean, it seems to me that he's going to need something to happen in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, he's also in that needs to pick it up. He's slowly been gaining some momentum.
Yeah.
You're starting to see consecutive top 5s, top 10s out of him. But he really needs to get a win in, to really get him up there.
Kind of cement it a little bit, and brick it, maybe.
Yep.
All right. Hey, we're not done with racing. We didn't have a NASCAR race this past weekend, but we did have a little racing going on in NHRA. And that was going on out at Colorado at Bandimere Speedway. And, like NASCAR a little bit this past week, Sidekick, it's amazing to me. We've only got four events left to this NHRA season before they are looking at doing their countdown for the championship title. Now, we haven't brought you the leaderboard in about 7 weeks, so we thought we'd bring it up to date right now. And so let's take a look at the top NHRA categories. And in the top fuel dragster category, Spencer Massey still sits atop the list. But now he's only 11 points ahead of Antron Brown and 81 points ahead of Tony Schumacher. In the funny car division, John Force Racing's Robert Hight has led the entire season and continues to do so. And he sits there atop the list, 66 points ahead of Ron Capps and 197 points ahead of his teammate Mike Neff.
I was going to say, he's been running away with
It's been
the
all
whole
season long. Absolutely. And finally, in the Pro Stock division, we do have a little bit of change from the last leaderboard that we showed you, and that is that Alan Johnson leads all and has pushed Greg Anderson to the number 2 spot, but just a mere 19 points ahead of him, and only 32 points ahead of Jason Lyon. And so that's our NHRA update for right now. I can tell you right now, we will bring you another one of those, probably going into that last and final race in a couple of weeks. All right, here we go. Let's go and take a look at Major League Baseball. And we're 16 weeks into it, and it's here we go. It's another. We only got 9 weeks. Are you ready, folks? 9 weeks left to Major League Baseball. So let's take a look at this week's Improbables. Cincinnati Reds Bary Larkin was inducted in the Hall of Fame the other day.
Yep.
This past weekend. And I got to be honest, I've always liked Larkin. I really think the guy's a class act. So there's Larkin up on the podium the other day, and he's got MLB Commissioner Bud Celtic. He's there on the stage with him, and when Larkin suddenly decides to give credit to, of all people, Pete Rose for helping him through the, quote, the pressures, things that come with being a Cincinnati native, being in Cincinnati. Thank you, Pete Rose. I love you, man. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, we got to applaud Bary right there, man. I love you, man. All right.
Which everyone was asking.
Well,
Mr. Celtic.
I haven't seen the video, but I would have loved to have seen Celic's face. We all know there was a lot of anticipation about the new, rebuilt, and improved Miami Marlins going into this season.
Yep.
And I think that's why it all comes as a little bit of a shock that it seems that something has suddenly gone terribly, terribly wrong.
And it's not Huzzy Dean this time.
No. Well, I don't know. Maybe he might be part of it. But the team that some were touting as the possible NL East winner at the beginning of the season has suddenly taken their new yard to the yard sale. All right? Gone in less than 10 days are Anibal Sanchez, Omar Infante, Hanley Ramirez. And Josh Johnson right now is being shot. Some here in the Philadelphia area are saying we ought to be thinking about getting him. After 3+ months, 40% of the rotation, the second baseman, the third baseman, and possibly the closer are out the door. Wow.
Peter Nowak isn't.
That's the way to open up a new stadium. That's the way I...
Peter Nowak's not down there, is he?
I
mean, he did that for the union. I mean, this guy...
Now, to add fuel to the fire, baseball reporter Ken Mr. Bowtie Rosenthal had an awesome quote the other day regarding the situation in Miami, where he said, Monday's trade, right-hander Anibal Sanchez and infielder Omar Infante to the Tigers for right-hander Jacob Turner, catcher Rob Brantley, and left fielder Brian Finley, along with an exchange of competitive balance picks, was not the start. It was not. He said it was not the start of a fire sale. It actually was worse. It was an admission by the Marlins that they didn't know what they were doing last winter.
Nobody's perfect.
I guess it goes to show you that a new venue does not make a new team.
Nope.
This has got to be, I think, probably the most bizarre, improbable story we have brought you all season long. There was a report yesterday that the 74-year-old mother of Cal Ripken Jr. had gone missing from her home on Tuesday. And I gotta be honest, when I first read it, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, the poor woman might be suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, and maybe she just wandered away. In fact, what actually occurred was even more bizarre than that. She apparently was confronted by an armed gunman who forced his way into her car between 7 and 8 a.m. in the morning on Tuesday. She then went missing until 6:15 a.m. the very next morning on Wednesday, where she was found by Aberdeen police safely in her car, mercifully. She was more at that point. She was more than 25 miles away from her home in Baltimore, Maryland. And while there are no specific details at this particular moment about what happened with the abduction, except for the description of the abductor, it's a bizarre story. Mercifully, she's okay. Now, I only had one question when I saw this one. And my question is, how in the world does this happen? It was reported yesterday on Hardball Talk that the 1912 Boston Red Sox World Series trophy will be auctioned off. Now, this is 1912. Will be auctioned off next week at a collector's convention in Baltimore. The trophy, which is currently owned by Robert Frazier, who purchased it for $74,000 in 2007, is expected to fetch as much as $300,000. Now,
I need dough and plenty of it.
isn't this the type of thing that should be kind of housed by the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park?
I don't know why they haven't.
How in the world does this get out of their possession and this is being auctioned off to the public? I mean, incredible.
Well, I will say that I'm going to be in Baltimore next weekend.
Yes, we will.
With Frat House Mike's checkbook, attempting to get said trophy for the Frat House.
Ain't gonna get you much, dude. Ain't gonna get
How
you
much
much.
does a 1912 Boston Red Sox used World Series trophy go for?
Oh, on that note, let's go over and take a look at the league standings. And there have been just some minor tweaks in the standings. In the American League, the best team in baseball continues to be the Yankees, but they slipped just a little bit this week and are now only 8 games in front of the Baltimore Orioles. The Chicago White Sox have slipped just a tad themselves, and they're currently tied right now with the Detroit Tigers. Texas Rangers continue to be 5 games ahead of the charging Athletics. And I said Athletics. Has anybody taken notice of what the Athletics have done? They are currently right now the hottest team in baseball. They have won 7 in a row and are 9-1 in their last 10. Can you say Moneyball?
I was just going to ask.
About to say that. I got you.
Moneyball going on?
I beat you to the punch. In the National League, the Washington Nationals continue to stay 4.5 games ahead of the Atlanta Braves. In the East, Cincinnati Reds take the number 1 spot over there in the Central. They are 2.5 games in front of the Pirates. And similarly, you've got the San Francisco Giants maintaining their lead 2.5 games in front of the Dodgers. Now, before we wrap up our baseball, we need to take a look at the most viewed Frat House Facebook post of the week, which happened just the other evening, and it becomes our post of the week. It happened just the other evening during the Philadelphia Phillies' wild 9th inning comeback over the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, this wasn't the first of theirs. They've had about 3 or 4 of these now in a row. In fact, the Phils are on a 4-game winning streak and have had like 3 8th, 9th inning comebacks. The Phils came all the way back from a 6-1 deficit to tie the game in the 8th, and then they had a go-ahead run in the bottom of the 9th to win it 7-6. Now, I was excitedly, I was posting as a Frat House, I was excitedly posting almost play-by-play with the initial comment, how do you like this? We got ourselves another 2008, 2009, 2010 reminiscent 8th inning trying to come from behind Philadelphia Phillies game going on a year. Well, that brought out Facebook friend Jackie L, who we're going to meet on Saturday with our trip to the Baltimore Orioles Camden Yards. And she and I were going back and forth for a little while through the remainder of the game, and that becomes our Facebook post of the week. Now, you got to keep those posts going. We like that kind of stuff. Keep that going back and forth and back and forth and back. We'd be remiss if we didn't take a look at, hey, we got a big event going on coming up, and that's the 2012 Summer Olympics. They're beginning, held in London this year, and the kickoff is tomorrow night.
And we've had plenty of fireworks. We've had plenty of fireworks before it's even started. I mean, we've already had 2 Greek athletes drop out.
One for tweeting and the incident.
One for opening her mouth when she shouldn't have.
Yeah, and that was pretty outrageous, actually.
The other one for doping. I mean,
I think it's going to get interesting. I think you might actually see a little bit more of it. But we're sitting here, and we want to wish the best of luck to all of our American Olympians. And just a handful of them that I thought it was appropriate that we would highlight this evening and are kind of being touted as real possibilities for gold and other medaling contention. Of course, we've got Michael Phelps in there. We got the men's basketball team.
Speaking of medaling.
Yeah, but they better.
Kobe.
With Kobe's mouth going in the past couple of weeks, they better do something. This year's women's gymnastics team is right now being touted as being potentially one of the best that we've ever put out there. That of course remains to be seen, but we'll see how that goes. Others, we've got Serena Williams. She's playing tennis. Allison Felix in track and field, and Jonathan Horton in men's gymnastics. Now, we didn't highlight all of them, obviously. There are far too many. But you can bet that starting next week, we're going to be bringing you the medal breakdown, and we're going to be bringing you highlights of everything that's going on over there in London. So stay tuned. We had kind of a 5 minutes outside the frat house moment this past weekend.
We did.
When the entire frat house crew, all of us here, were invited to the Celtic hand tying ceremony of a couple of our Facebook friends,
Yep.
TJ and Pat, which they kind of surprised us all. And well, it wasn't a hand tying, but it actually turned out to be a real legitimate, you know, it's all right there, that they're marriage. They presented us with the marriage license, the whole thing, and there it was. So, from all of us here at the Frat House, congratulations to TJ and Pat.
And to many years of country line dancing.
Very good, absolutely. We'll seal it.
Competitive country line dancing.
CCL. Let's not forget our friends over there at fanjunkies.net. You got to get over there. You got to sign up.
Come on.
A lot of stuff going on over there. Hey, just too much fun. fanjunkies.net.
Yep.
And finally, don't forget, please, to continue following some of the stuff I'm doing over on phillysportslive.com, the website that I've been writing for the past couple of weeks. This past week I had a couple of articles up there, but one of them that I'm going to highlight right now was the induction announcement of the newest, that is the 9th class inductees of the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. You and I were together on that one last Thursday. So get over to phillysportslive.com, bookmark it, save it as a favorite, whatever you have to do. Check it every day for what's going on and the things that I write. We're going to be... Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And keep your eyes peeled. We've got big things coming.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, we've got...
Oh, yeah. There's going to be some major announcements coming down the line in the next couple of weeks. You can bet on that one. We got things in the works.
A lot of things in the works.
Now, we're going to be right back here with you next week, and you can count on Olympian updates. You can count on NASCAR updates. You can count on Major League Baseball updates. You can count on NFL training updates. And anything else that might come up in the meantime. Hey, you know what you got to do. You got to keep us real. You got to keep us live. You got to keep us going. See you next week.
The Ripken family has released a statement saying, quote, "This has been a very trying time for our family, but we are grateful and relieved that Mom is back with us, safe and healthy." Ross Simpson, The Associated Press.